Fire! Grenade! A country united in grief, a country that wants revenge, a people who have seen the blood of their family members being spilt in Kashmir, a land that they hold as their own. Hello and welcome once again to Business Television India. I'm Siddharth Zarabi and you're watching Rajniti. Joining us on this show tonight, Ahmed Ali Fayaz, senior journalist from Srinagar in Kashmir, Kamal Sibal, former foreign secretary, Sushil Pandit, a Delhi-based analyst on J&K affairs, Major General retired SVP Singh with me in the Delhi studio, Chetan Singh, political analyst, also with us here, Deepak Joshi, senior editor for parliamentary affairs, my colleague Vivek Avasthi, senior editor for politics on the ground in the national capital, Brahmachalani, security and strategic affairs expert, PK Sehgal, defense expert, and also later on Major General retired SR Sinho. Tonight is a night after a day where Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke at least on 3 occasions publicly and expressed a very clear resolve as far as the Pulwama attack is concerned and the response. Let's listen into that first.
वो सारे फैसले करने के लिए इजाजत दे दी गई, सजा जरूर दी जाएगी। सुरक्षा बलों को खुली छूट दे दी गई है, सुरक्षा बलों को खुली छूट दे दी गई है।
आंसू का पूरा जवाब लिया जाएगा, किसी को चैन से सोने नहीं देंगे। आंसू का पूरा जवाब लिया जाएगा, किसी को चैन से सोने नहीं देंगे।
Those are the Prime Minister's words, and it's very clear what he's saying publicly is perhaps an expression of an internal resolve where the wheels have already been set in motion. But we'll come to that later on the show because we have a full house here tonight to debate the various aspects, and like we have done every night, we are not calling for war, but we want to understand from experts what is really happening on the ground. And I'll start with Ahmed Ali Fayaz from Srinagar. Mr. Fayaz, welcome again to BTVI. It's the 3rd day. You've been reporting and tracking the latest developments. Some more clarity emerging with respect to how this incident took place. I want you to tell our viewers what is the latest information that you have gathered about that entire incident.
Latest developments are that the Director General of the CRPF, Mr. R.R. Bhatnagar, visited the spot today, and separately a team of the National Investigating Agency, a forensic experts team, they also visited there. They are trying to protect the site of the crime, and they are trying to take into custody different samplers forensic examination. And there are no demands from certain quarters that the NIA in fact should have a permanent forensic team in Kashmir, the way NSG has a full commandos team there at STC Pulwama, because such incidents do happen. And I think in a while from now, this case will be formally assigned to the NIA for a detailed investigation. CRPF is holding its own in-house investigation into this matter. We are told that the police have taken into custody about a dozen people from Pulwama and perhaps some of them in the adjacent Kulgam district also. But as of now, everybody is groping in the dark. But this thing is clear that this has been done by the militant group Jaish-e-Mohammed. They have claimed responsibility. There are no confusions about that. Most of the people in Kashmir are concerned about this thing, that no such incident should happen in future, because you have seen its ramifications. It has had an impact even in Jammu. Yesterday, some 30 vehicles were torched in Jammu. Some 300 more vehicles were damaged there. Kashmiri employees in Janipura government quarters, they were attacked today and they were shifted to a safer location. But I think by tomorrow the situation will be limping back to normalcy. Today we have seen that Kashmir Chamber of Commerce and Industry as well as Jammu Chamber of Commerce Industry, they have issued statements. Civil society Jammu have held a press conference. They have condemned this terrorist act in very unequivocal terms. They said that we are not part of this thing. So I think this will have some impact on the situation. Everybody is expecting that the internet services and
you have given us a comprehensive roundup of today's developments. I have a couple of questions before I let you go. You said that a dozen people have been taken into custody in Pulwama and perhaps Kulgam. Can you throw any more light on who these people are? Have they been picked up as a result of CASO operations, or is there specific intelligence that might have led to their being taken into custody?
No, not CASO. I think police has called some people, and some people have been taken for questioning. Officials are tight-lipped about this thing. There is not a press release about it. Nobody is speaking on the record. But from our own sources in South Kashmir, we have come to know that about a dozen people are under questioning right now.
Mr. Fayaz, a couple of other strands of information that have been floating in the air for the last 24 hours. The first I want to ask you, there were reports about a decision and a hint by the Home Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, for the withdrawal of security to the Hurriyat conference leaders. As of now, can you tell me whether that has indeed happened? What is the situation as far as the security of the Hurriyat leadership is concerned?
To the best of my information, nobody's security has been withdrawn. In fact, the Home Minister Rajnath Singh has said that we will review the security of he didn't say directly separatist leaders, but he said that the people who are receiving funds from across. He said like this, but everybody knows that about a dozen, I think more than a dozen separatist leaders, they are enjoying the security from the government. But as of now, nobody's security, to the best of our information, has been withdrawn.
All right. And Ahmed Ali Fayaz, I must make a mention of this point, that as far as innocent, ordinary Kashmiris residing, doing business, studying, working across this country, I think the nation, a great country, owes it to everyone that there will be no overreaction, and those who are truly and actually responsible are taken to task, and not innocents. And innocents on both sides, regardless of the divide, regardless of religion, caste and creed. We'll keep coming back to you, Mr. Fayaz, and on more updates as and when they occur. I now want to begin this debate with a question to Mr. Sibal, the former Foreign Secretary. And the question that I have for you to begin the debate, sir, tonight is, you would have heard the Prime Minister's remarks repeated thrice or delivered at three different locations earlier today. The tonality, the text of those remarks different, and by the end of the day, the last remark really more severe or strong than the earlier one. What is this situation as far as the Prime Minister's remarks telling you? Is this a greater and clearer hint of what is likely to take place as far as Pakistan is concerned, Mr. Sibal?
I think so. Prime Minister has been very strong in his remarks, I must say. And he has made these remarks clearly because there is an intention to take strong action. We are not yet clear as to what this action would be. But my assumption is that we have been preparing for long our options in case there is a major terrorist attack like the one that happened in Mumbai. So it's not that we have to do our sums once again and see what our options are. I assume that we already know what is the nature of the options we have, the risks involved, and the limits of that and the scope of that. And if the Prime Minister had made such strong statements, I believe that what we will see as the crisis unfolds is a strong reaction on multiple fronts, because otherwise it would be very awkward for the government to explain the gap between such strong remarks and lack of action on the ground. The second thing is that our response cannot be delayed very long, because then doubts will start occurring as to the seriousness of what the Prime Minister said, whether he said that to buy time, to soften the reaction of the public, to calm them down, and whereas the intention was not to really take very strong action. Therefore, I think it would one can reasonably say that whatever we intend to do would happen reasonably quickly, and we should see some action on the ground, both on the military and diplomatic fronts.
Obviously, it will not be wise to even try and speculate to the military reactions. We can always discuss about them in generalities, and I'll come to the generals on the show later on. Mr. Sibal, as far as the diplomatic front is concerned, the NSA, the American National Security Advisor's statement, how strong, how clear is it? And if I may ask you, I don't recall, and I'm not a great student of foreign affairs, such a strong statement by a NSA in the recent past, especially when the other outrages happened. What is that indicative of? Because the same country is withdrawing from Afghanistan, and a lot of people are saying a spillover effect is taking place in Jammu and Kashmir.
Well, first of all, John Bolton is a very tough character, and he's used to making very strong statements on a number of issues. Therefore, it's not surprising that on this issue, he has asked for the perpetrators of this incident to be handled, to be tackled. I don't think he said that they should be punished, but that action should be taken against them. Now, this is quite different from the kind of statements that have come in the past, where the Americans have generally asked for a calm reaction and dialogue, and exhorted Pakistan to investigate issues, these attacks, and punish those. But at the same time, they have at the back of their mind that any strong military reaction by India could escalate into something more serious, as both countries are nuclear weapon states. But in this case, there isn't that kind of a caution that the matter should be handled through negotiations, and in the process of talks between the two countries, the perpetrators of the crime should be punished. This is a stronger statement than before. And to that extent, I think if we really took some military action, we would get understanding and support from the United States of America. Nobody, even the Americans or we ourselves, are thinking in terms of war, but in terms of some specific action, punitive action against Pakistan. I think on that we would get American understanding, and if we get American understanding, we'll get the understanding of the Western world in general, especially Europe.
Mr. Sibal, you have touched upon a very important point, and from all reports so far, global opinion consolidating behind India, even as we contemplate what you term as punitive action. I want to go across to Brahmachalani and take forward the points that you have made. For the United States to, and you know, I'm not saying this lightly, at least I haven't noticed any tweet from President Trump on this for or against this matter. And I remember of the days of Robin Raphael, and that Raphael is spelt very differently, ladies and gentlemen, and the kind of pro-Pakistani State Department policy that she piloted for many years. Brahmachalani, I want to ask you, Mr. Sibal says no war, but scope for punitive action. He also says the response cannot be delayed for long, and all day, yesterday, before, and even today, and just minutes back, we've been reporting on the people hitting the streets. What is this response likely to be, sir, given the context of what the Prime Minister has said thrice over earlier today?
The massacre of the soldiers represents a defining moment for Modi. How he responds will define his legacy. The country expects him to act decisively, but it's important for him not to undertake any misstep. So he faces an important challenge. It's a real challenge for him. There have been a number of attacks under his leadership, Pathankot, Uri, etc. For example, after Pathankot, the government didn't come out too well. So he cannot afford to flunk this test, because this test has come as the national elections are looming, and how he responds to this test will very much influence the outcome of the national election. So even that factor, I'm sure, is weighing on his mind. So he has to act decisively, but wisely, so that there is no misstep. The operation has to be a success. There can't be an Indian blunder that makes India look silly. It has to be an action that sends a clear message to Pakistan, especially the terror masters in Rawalpindi. So I would say that for Prime Minister Modi, the next few days are going to be critical. So far, however, India has only taken a very symbolic step of withdrawing Pakistan's MFN status. That action has no meaning, because it really doesn't affect Pakistan's economy. We need to do things in the non-military area too, so as to squeeze Pakistan diplomatically, economically, even in terms of the Indus Waters Treaty, building up riparian pressure. And I wish the government had announced a few other steps besides the token withdrawal of the MFN status, because that would have meant that India is serious. So I hope that that this lull in non-military actions is just a lull, that once the actions are set in motion, then several actions in different fields would follow. That's my hope, because Prime Minister, for a change, is very clear in his public remarks. If you go back to Pathankot, how he responded to the Pathankot attack, we see a very changed Modi today. So he has to match his
We see a
words
very
with
change,
actions now.
Modi. Mr. Chelani, one quick point, sir. One quick point, sir, before I bring in more people into the debate. You would have noticed and recall another Prime Minister in another time and another person, that was the late Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, massive mobilization in the heat of summer. And we were always told that India cannot go all out because there is a risk of the nuclear threshold being crossed. Is that a risk still, given the changed global context? And can India call Pakistan's bluff as far as that entire nuclear threshold risk is concerned?
You raise a very good question. Vajpayee failed that test miserably because he delayed and delayed and delayed, and India lost the opportunity because any action by India ought to have been undertaken in the first 2-3 days after the attack on Parliament. And the Air Force Chief told the Prime Minister then that the Air Force was ready and could achieve its objectives without Pakistanis being able to respond in time or be able to escalate the situation. He chose to delay. And the more he delayed, the less became India's credible military option. So the military option gradually eroded the longer Vajpayee deterred on making a decision. In present case, I don't think we are in the same situation because right now what is being contemplated is somewhat different, and certainly we are not building up our ground forces. I don't think anybody's expecting a full-fledged war. So short of a full-fledged war, India has options, and certainly India has options in the sub-conventional domain. Pakistan has been waging a sub-conventional war against India for long, and India has failed to respond to that war, because the only way you can combat a sub-conventional war effectively is through a counter sub-conventional war. That is something India has not embarked upon, even though it has endured the sub-conventional war for more than 3 decades. It's astonishing that the governments have gone. Even a couple of prime ministers have been assassinated, Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi.
I am reminded of I am reminded of an article written in the Business Standard newspaper by Mr. Shekhar Gupta, where one point stays with me, where he said Pakistan has chosen the wrong government and the wrong time to have undertaken this attack. Before I continue the debate, I want to bring focus once again to the pressure that is building up on the ground for the government. And you've heard strategic affairs, foreign affairs experts on the show so far talk about the grave challenge and even the fact that any misstep can be extremely costly for the government of the day. I want to go to my colleague Vivek Avasthi for a very short dip in, if we can go to him right now, as he brings us the latest from on the ground at India Gate. And remember, it's not the number of people who are there, it is the fact that there are people there even on the third day at this place of protest for all manner of issues, which tells us the sentiment on the ground. Vivek Avasthi, over to you. Tell us, how is it panning out from where you are standing?
Quite near the place where slogans are being raised. I am here with a group which is very silently protesting with their placards and their posters and small candles in the hands. I will speak to them. What are they here for? What exactly they want from the government? What is their demand after the dastardly attack on the 40-odd CRPF Jawans who were martyred and whose families have been orphaned? So, I'll first, why are you here? What do you want from the government?
I think words have been enough said, and it is the right time to take a stern action against Pakistan, and they should have been taught a lesson way before.
Stern action. What do you mean by stern action?
Stern action, you know, what we mean by that is that we want this should not happen again. Okay, so whatever action needs to be taken right now or should have been taken. We do not blame anyone for all of this, but we have already lost 40 brothers. So we don't know, like, there has to be some way out that, you know, we have to take a revenge, or we have to make sure कि जिन 40 लोगों ने अपनी जान खोई है वो किसी तरीके से हमें, you know, वापस चाहिए. उनकी जो जज्बा है, उनका वो है, वो हमारे में भी उतना ही.
What do you say, ma'am? What do you want the government to do now?
It's basically what I feel is that, you know, the amount of RDX they used to blow up our men, we should use that amount of men should be blown up. That's what we want. If they kill our people time and time again, why should we step back? We have to pull up our guns and we have to show them that we can also do the same as to what you can do to our men. We're not here to take all of this all the time. We did surgical strikes. We need to hit back even worse this time. As I said again, the amount of RDX used on us, the amount of people should be dead over there in Pakistan now.
Sir, I think, you know, since years, whenever there has been a war, it has always been initiated by Pakistan. We have never been the perpetrators, we have never been the instigators, but we have always been on the bearing end. And I think because of that, you know, because of the ahimsa attached to us, we have been taken for granted. I think it's about time that we need to initiate an action, that they understand that 1 billion people over here are not mad and they're not going to take all this bullshit that has been, you know, kind of imposed on us. The 44 people, they were just marching, doing their own, you know, routine. And for no rhyme or reason, they were killed. And not really killed, but butchered. And I think, you know, instead of being butchered like that, let's wage a war on them and let's just kill all of them, because we are done with the terrorism and we just can't take it anymore.
Wage a war.
Absolutely. Let me tell you, because many of them don't have an idea what low intensity war is. Having served in the Indian Armed Forces, I know, I was in the Kashmir, and I know now that it's time we go in for a full-fledged war. And simultaneously, we should politically isolate Pakistan, economic blockade, and ultimately complete washout of wiping out Pakistan from the international map.
But you've been from the forces.
I have some breaking news here. I have some breaking news here. Basic customs duty on all goods imported into India from Pakistan, and many of these goods includes perishable commodities, food products, some handicraft related products. The basic customs duty on all goods exported from Pakistan to India has been raised to 200% with immediate effect. This is the second economic step after the withdrawal of the most favored nation status. India raising basic customs duty on all goods imported from Pakistan to 200%. That's news breaking right here on the channel at this very point of time. More people in the rest of the country, but I'll have to come back to my guests in the studio, and I want to take one point on defense matters before I turn your attention, viewers, towards another domestic development. As the world has stood by with India, we are asking the question, have our politicians stood by with our forces? Are our politicians united? Because earlier today, we have also seen a break in the ranks of the domestic political consensus. I'll come to that, but I want to go to Major General Singh, who is here with me. Sir, you've been listening to Mr. Kanwar Sibal, Mr. Brahmachalani. You also got the latest visuals from India Gate. That's what people are saying. A former service officer also there. It's easy to ask you how many bombs can be launched, what do we do, where are those camps. I really want to ask you, given the context, given the constraints and the challenges that we face, is a credible military option available to our planners? Mr. Sibal said that it's not as if a new plan has to be prepared. That plan already exists. You just probably have to implement it now.
Well, it's like this, It's been very long, 70 plus years. India has not projected itself to be the power which it foresees itself to be. Particularly in the last 2 decades, we feel that we should be a world power in being. And for that, the military power and the military capability and the capacities which should be built, I'm afraid the country and the governance has fallen short of it. And we have a lot more to do to improve our defense preparedness, defense capabilities, and also uplift the armed forces in all its facets, whether it is the weaponry, the equipment, the men, the morale, and the status of our personnel. Now, what
are we not ready, sir? Is that what you are hinting at?
Well, I'll cast back to the Kargil 1999, where the then chief said, okay, we will fight with whatever we have.
Absolutely.
And the Indian army and the Indian armed forces are always prepared for that.
Yes.
There's no better manpower than the Indian soldier.
Yes.
Who can deliver the goods against all odds. So I'm very clear that we are ready.
Mr. Chelani, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, Major General Singh. Mr. Chelani hinted, and if I caught that right, at what I concluded more of the exercise of an air option rather than a ground-based operation. Given the nature of warfare, the fact that we are in a 4th generation hybrid conflict, is an air option more relevant at this stage than an all-out ground-based mobilization, which we tried to do many years back and didn't yield any results?
Well, it's like this to my mind. Any action which the air has to do, the ground forces should be ready.
To back it up.
Yes, absolutely.
And to consolidate the gains.
And I'm very sure all our actions on ground would have been completed as well. I'm very sure Indian Armed Forces, Indian military is not sleeping. We are well ready in our operational areas. Anything which the air has to do, the military on ground has to be a backup. And we can undertake. We have got a number of options.
And does our cold start doctrine allow us a rapid mobilization on all fronts?
Yeah, I'd like to cast back on what Mr. Chelani said.
Yes.
Yeah, well, Mr. Vajpayee failed at that time. But there was a major constraint. It was a conventional warfare thought which was discussed at that time.
Yes, sir.
And the Indian military, the Indian army had to mobilize.
Yes.
Mobilization at that time was a period of fortnight to 3 weeks.
Yes, sir.
And to undertake operations immediately would have been futile.
Yes, sir.
That's to my mind.
Yes.
We had to build up.
Yes.
But that scenario is history. Now we are in the operational areas, our integrated battle groups are there, and we don't have to look back on mobilization.
Absolutely, and it seems very clearly that the political signal to our battle groups and formations at multiple levels is already there. I'll come back to you, sir, because I want to now turn the attention of our viewers to something that's bothered me all through the day, and this is a subject that you have seen, viewers, pretty much play out everywhere. And I just want you to focus today evening on what we are calling the 7 deadly sins that have been committed by our domestic political constituency. And it is tragic, it is shameful, and like I said, it's not for me to judge, decide, instigate, or launch a war from the studio. All I want you viewers is to focus on what has happened, and I'm requesting my producers to bring that up on screen. What was left out of the all-party resolution today? Source-based information, 7 key words missing, and these are not just simple 7 words. Read the resolution that was proposed to be passed at this meeting and see the final resolution, which is a 3-para resolution in my hand, also up there on the screen. And what is missing, and I want Chetan Singh, Deepak Joshi, Sushil Pandit to focus on this. The words that are missing are resolve, efforts, challenges, suitably, firmly, responded to. Viewers, you heard some of the most respected people in India, Mr. Sibal, who's been patiently there with us, Brahmachalani. You heard a journalist from Srinagar tell you the latest. Major General Singh. We'll also listen to Major General S.R. Sinno's comment later on. These are the 7 words that we are told the Trinamool Congress, and I don't want to introduce politics. For the last 3 days, we have not invited a single political representative to come to the show because we don't want politics here. The country doesn't want politics. But I am at a loss today that even if English was not understood, could the sentiment behind these words not have been understood by all those parties who agreed with the Trinamool? And it's an absolute shame that the final resolution from the earlier para, which read, "Today we all resolve to stand with our security forces and efforts of the central and state governments to ensure that these challenges are suitably and firmly responded to." That's why we are asking the question, why did our parties drop 7 key words from the resolution? And on the Trinamool suggestion, the blue portion on the screen, viewers, is the reworded statement. And that reworded statement, as we bring it up back on the screen for our viewers to consider, and we'll stay with this, it says, "Today we stand united in solidarity with our security forces and defend the unity and integrity of India." Well, that's almost like the oath that anybody takes to office. That is what our constitution says. But our constitution did not envisage that our neighbor would keep attacking us in sub-conventional 4th-generation hybrid warfare. And our politicians have dropped these 7 words. And when you go out to vote, please remember these 7 deadly sins. Please remember that the politics of the day dropped these 7 words, which on the face of it and individually and independently are innocuous words from the English language, and I can translate it into Hindi: resolve, dridhta, efforts, parakram, challenges, chunauti, suitably, sahi se, firmly, datke, response, jawab. What was wrong in these 7 words? That our politics had to drop it today. And that's why the piece of paper after this all-party meeting is not even worth the paper that we have printed it upon. And that's why the country and individuals and experts, those who understand and those who don't, are saying that it is now up to the government of the day to respond and respond firmly. I will now go across to Sushil Pandit. Sushil Pandit, while we have seen vacillation, while we have seen mixed messages from Kashmir, we have seen even celebration of this dastardly strike. Are you shocked today, Sushil Pandit, that the politicians of the day have dropped these words and converted this resolution into a effect kind of demonstration of the capability that our country has? Sushil Pandit.
Absolutely. Siddharth, I share your sense of disbelief and utter shock. It is pathetic to note that respond to the challenges has been replaced by defend the integrity and unity. You know, this betrays a mindset. It shows that you are unwilling to take on a war that has been imposed on you, that you still want to defend, that your response to 1,000 bleeding cuts is 1,000 bandages. Nothing more. This is what they tried to communicate. But let me tell you one thing, Siddharth. It is all right for TMC to ask for these changes, but what compelled the government to accept them? It was all right for Sheikh Abdullah to ask for 370 and 35A. But what compelled Nehru to deliver it? We have been actually giving these concessions for the last 70 years. And that's what I come to in the point that I wish to make today. While we are weighing our options in this so-called sub-conventional fourth generation hybrid warfare, if it is fought by Lashkar, Toiba, if it is fought by Jaish-e-Mohammed, if it is fought by Hizbul Mujahideen, I would call it a jihad. And calling a jihad by some other name is a travesty. We are facing a jihad in Kashmir because Kashmir is a low-hung fruit, but that jihad is spreading all over. This is an opportunity not just to strike beyond the borders, but also to strike at the system that sustains jihad within. This atrocity could not have been pulled off without this system which is alive, kicking, thriving within our borders. There is a political system that sustains this, led by Hurriyat. Please take out the Hurriyat leadership and dispatch them to different corners, far-flung areas in the country, in the jails where they are not comfortable, talking and running a jihad from their homes. Please put under house arrest Mehbooba Mufti and Omar Abdullah, who are day in and day out spewing confusion and venom and supporting Pakistan directly or indirectly. Please, this is the political support to our jihad, this jihad. There is a legal constitutional support to jihad which has engendered it through 370 and 35A. Dismantle it. Call a joint session of parliament and throw these things out of constitution. This is the best opportunity India has got. 3, there is an economy of sustaining this jihad. There is cross-border trade. Please, somebody advise our finance minister, stop making money by 200% duty, just ban exports, ban all economic relationship with Pakistan. Plain and simple. No tinkering of taxes. You have to dismantle the system that sustains jihad on our soil, fought within our towns and districts and villages, at the expense of our infrastructure and our citizens. We need to dismantle this entire system brick by brick, from the constitution, from the politics, from the economy, because that's what sustains it. While we wait for our armed forces to strike abroad, this is something which is a low-hung fruit for the politicians. Politicians can't abdicate, shrug and say armed forces have been told to do what they deem fit. What are they there for? They need to alter their politics, they need to alter their discourse, they need to alter the way they look at it. They need to do something and not just go out and campaign for 2019 elections, which our Prime Minister has already begun. He must summon the parliament, clean up the constitution, clean up the political leadership he's been supping with for the last 4 years, who have brought this tragedy upon us in Kashmir. And clean up the economy.
Pandit, several questions that you raise. So, Sushil Pandit, you raise multiple questions, and I'll request you to allow me to take them with Chetan Singh and Deepak Joshi. And I want to come to you, Deepak Joshi, because it was 3 days back, within hours of this incident, that you said that the way this government and the Prime Minister responds to this challenge will determine the fate, his personal fate and the fate of this government. But that's not my question to you tonight. What could have compelled the government to accept these changes, Deepak Joshi?
I am astonished that they accepted this challenge. They should have let the resolution be with the dissent note. Let it go on record.
It was not a bill of parliament.
No,
There's
no,
nothing
somebody could write a
dissent.
if somebody does not agree, walk out or write a dissent.
Yes.
At least the person or the group could be isolated.
Yes.
By agreeing to their demands, you are becoming a party to their demands.
Does that tell you something about the likely response? Therefore, should we assume that, well, the government decided, let the politicians do what they want to do, we have already given instructions to our forces?
I would be delighted if that becomes the response.
Okay.
And that is what I expect the government to do. But we'll have to wait in coming days, otherwise because the time is running out.
Trinamool played hooky with the resolution, Some people didn't attend. Farooq Abdullah left early, someone who is responsible for the present crisis, and his son was tweeting that he was dismayed that there was no call for peace. Well, Omar's job was being done by others. Chetan, are we failing to call a spade a spade? Do we need to reconcile and accept that there's a jihad that we are facing and we need to deal with it accordingly?
See, first and foremost, try to understand. It's been 2 days. We have got this kind of a tragedy which has happened, the biggest in our country. And today what has happened, a couple of hours back, there was again ceasefire violation and a major, army major, we have got a loss of life again.
Yes.
So you see, this is not going to get stopped. Unless we will not put our house in order, it is going to be very difficult. First. Second, General Bajwa of Pakistan, in couple of months, he would be outgoing. His retirement is due. Prime Minister of Pakistan.
He's looking for a
extension. Absolutely, he's looking for an extension. Undoubtedly.
Yes.
Even if you see Imran Khan, Bajwa was very instrumental bringing Imran Khan to that chair. Yes. And Imran Khan wants him to go early so that he can gain a control of his entire space.
Yes.
But Bajwa wants that space to be maintained by himself.
Yes.
So therefore there was a pressure on him. And now the kind of celebration which is taking place
yes.
in Pakistan,
yes.
you can see that.
Yes.
You see, another reason why in Jammu and Kashmir this is happening, this resolution, change of resolution, why government has got into pressure?
Yes.
First. Second, the bigger party, the regional parties in Kashmir, in J&K,
yes.
you see, they are yet not saying he was a terrorist. I don't want to take his name.
Yeah.
Neither
the PDP didn't even attend.
Forget about PDP, any party, any of these three parties.
Yes.
You see, there are 22 districts in J&K.
Yes.
Out of these 22 districts, 5 districts are the worst affected. You have just mentioned 12 people have been picked up.
Yes.
You know, they have been booked.
Yes.
And the investigation is taking place.
Yes.
You see, from after 2016, when the surgical strike has taken place, and another
yes.
terrorist, when he was, killed.
Yes.
After that only this local militancy has gone up, the radicalization has gone up.
Yeah.
Now Hizbul has taken the advantage. Look at this terrorist. Look at his background. He has been failure in all front.
Well, that is true, Chetan. But the political support to the jihad is very clearly visible, and I have no reason not to agree with Sushil on that. Major General Singh, you wanted to come into this before I.
Yeah. You see, the couple of things which I would like to add. This resolution itself, I think it's painful.
Yes.
As I said earlier, we are seeking to be a major power, and we are not only a defensive mind has been depicted, it's a negative situation. I would have expected that this war of terror, the counter-terrorism, we would take it across our borders. And now is the time when the Indian governance and our Indian armed forces who are ready to take this counter-terrorism warfare in the land of Pakistan, which is suffering from divisiveness, be it Baluchistan, Sindh. Their FATA area is also strewn all over, and we are not exploiting it.
And a potentially bankrupt economy. Kamal Sibbal, sir, if I can come to you, you've been waiting by. I want you to comment about not the domestic politics really, but contrast it for our viewers. Global support, unequivocal, no pussyfooting, if I may use that word, as far as the language is concerned. Are politicians up to their usual tricks? The question I have, will this hold back the government and the armed forces in any way from reacting?
A couple of points. One is that this resolution, the amended resolution, doesn't make sense because why are we being so defensive that we have to protect the unity and integrity of our country? In fact, the language that was proposed by government was the right language, which was a proactive language, and that has been converted into a defensive language. I think the concern of the other parties is that somehow the BJP will gain electorally from this and would improve their chances in the next elections, and therefore they don't want to give full support to the BJP's strategy. Insofar as government's acceptance of the amended language is concerned, I think it would have been a bigger disaster if the all-party conference had ended without a resolution, which would have meant actually that the country is divided, and that would have given a great deal of comfort to Pakistan and also confused the international community about a lack of coherence and unity politically within India itself about how to deal with this issue. The couple of points, if you give me a few moments. One is that even if we take aerial action as we should, and we take some military steps, we take some diplomatic steps, it's not going to get us the result we want. Pakistan has borne a lot of pressure before, and it can bear this pressure again. After all, the country got divided also in 1971. They're not going to change this. They have taken on the Americans, and you see today that the Americans want their help in order to reach an agreement with the Taliban. So they're not going to see this as a game changer in terms of their mindset and their policies and their commitment to use the terrorist arm against India. Therefore, a couple of things we should do. I entirely agree with what Sushil Pandit has said, that this cross-LOC trade must be stopped. In fact, when I was in office, I had proposed this and argued against this, but unfortunately, I was overruled. But what is most important is that we should suspend the Indus Waters Treaty. After all, the United States walked out of the ABM, they walked out of the INF now, they walked out of the climate change negotiations, they walked out of the Iran deal. The Chinese, despite having been signatories to the law of the sea, they totally dismissed the decision of the tribunal against them. Pakistan has walked out of the Simla Agreement, they have walked out of the Islamic Declaration. Why are we hanging on to this treaty? We must suspend it. We must not allow any oversight by Pakistan on the projects that we are doing, and we should specifically link it to Pakistan's conduct on the issue of terrorism, of acting against Hafiz Saeed, of Jaish-e-Mohammed, of taking commitments like they did in the Islamabad Declaration once again, and once again endorse the Simla Accord. And we should warn them that if this does not happen, then we will, in course of time, repudiate the treaty, just as the Americans gave the Russians 6 months from their point of view to abide by the INF treaty, and at the end of that they said they will walk out. We should also send a similar signal to Pakistan. Now, Pakistan will have no response to this. This is really the asymmetrical warfare, in inverted commas, that we should engage in. Just as we haven't found an adequate answer to deal with the problem of terrorism, they will not have an adequate answer to deal with this kind of pressure, and this is the road down which we should go.
Chetan, you wanted to come in.
India is a very competent country, extremely competent now, and the entire world knows about it. So why we are not demonstrating? It's a time to demonstrate. It's not time to take very small little measures on economic front, rather, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Why I'm going to say so? You see, China has condemned. They have already
but they
sent
continue to boost
but they
the
continue
Jaish-e-Mohammed.
to do that. So you see, just because of their support only, we have not been able to book. We have not been able to put a pressure on them.
But can I just add, General Singh, say you know this better than anyone. Regardless of the name, you book one, another one pops out. I'm reminded of those cartoons. You try and plug one termite hole. Yes. Another one comes up. It was the Allah Tigers, it was the JKLF, it was the Hizbul Mujahideen, then it was the LET. Now the Jaish, tomorrow they might call it something else. Never going to end, really.
I may call it something.
Please.
They are all made by the same carpenter.
They are all made by the same carpenter.
So they will keep emerging. This terrorism factory is there.
Yes.
And they'll keep coming out of that mill.
Yes.
However, if we be strong, we deal with these areas wherever this terrorists strike us. That means that local area has extended support to these militants, whether they are coming from across the border or whether they are locals, as has been the case now.
And General,
and we must act very strongly
and
in these areas, even if it is fear of the Indian military. Well, way back, there used to be fear. Times changed because we became softer.
Absolutely.
In early 21st century, what happened? The stone pelters, a new weaponry or new sort of
asymmetrical, sir, and absolutely
asymmetric warfare came up.
In 2003, the decision to relax convoy rules, while necessary for major parts of the population, has led to.
I want to say,
yes, sir.
To add insult to injury,
yes, sir.
You've started giving pardon to the stone pelters. Absolutely. Whether it was Omar Abdullah government and later
we are back to the politics, sir.
And Omar Abdullah government, these people, when they were given pardon, the stone pelters, they were given employment in the J&K government.
Absolutely. One quick comment from General Sinho also before we wrap it up on the show. Let's listen into what he had told us earlier today from Bhopal.
India has to understand that after the Uri attack, this is the biggest attack that Pakistan has made in Pulwama sector, where we have lost almost about 40 soldiers. So what you have to do, you have to bleed the Pakistan army. How can you bleed? Bleed doesn't mean that you should go to war. What you can do is to have a conflict zone created. What Pakistan has done in Kargil sector. Can you believe that when the soldiers were dying, they were not body, they were recovering during night time in trucks, not shown to the public? Because if this has been done, the public in POK would have got provoked and there would have been an anti-Pakistan feeling. So at night time, hiding, not disclosing the number of casualties, what they suffered in Kargil sector and the way defeat suffered. So we have to do this, and it is better that for this problem, we have to solve this problem. India cannot continue with such kind of attacks in future. If we continue to accept this kind of features, I think it will be a sad thing. We will continue losing our men. Not only that, the public feeling will also have a reversal feeling against the politicians and the government. So my suggestion is that we have to, the time has come now, we have to do something seriously to send the message to Pakistan to stop this nonsense and find a solution to this terrorist problem which has been going on in Kashmir.
The response cannot be delayed for long. That's the single one-line summation that I really have from this entire panel. And viewers, we tried to bring out every single point of opinion without getting ourselves involved in unnecessary emotion. And I want to thank my guests for their patience on this show, because it's very, very important to understand the nuances and the context of this grave threat and challenge that has been posed to this country. A threat that is not only for the government, because we ultimately elect our own governments. It's a challenge directly to every single Indian. And before I call it a wrap tonight on this show,